Look at these hands. Just look at them. They carry plates. They clean tables. They refill water glasses 1, 2, 3, 4 times a night. These hands know how to work. These hands have always known how to work. But here is the question that keeps many of us awake at 2 a.m. Do the people around you see the hands? Or do they see you? Because there is a difference. A very big difference. When a guest at table 7 looks through you, not at you, through you, like you are a glass window, like you are part of the furniture, like your name does not matter, like your story does not exist. That moment, that tiny, quiet, invisible moment, is not about the job. It is never about the job. It is about something much deeper, something that follows you home, something that sits with you at the kitchen table at midnight while everyone else is sleeping. Maybe you know this feeling. Maybe you were a teacher back home, or an engineer, or a nurse, or a manager. You had a title. You had a desk. You had people who called your name and waited for your answer. And then one plane ride, one border, one new country, and suddenly you are invisible. Not because you changed, not because you became less, but because nobody here knows your story yet. And the painful truth is, if you stay silent, if you keep your head down, if you wait for someone to come and discover you, 5 years from now, you will be standing in the exact same spot, still invisible, still waiting, still carrying plates that are heavier than they look, not because you are not good enough, but because no one taught you the words to make them see you. Today, in this story, we follow a man named Marcus. Marcus came to Houston, Texas, from Lagos, Nigeria. He was a civil engineer for 11 years. 11 years? He designed roads. He supervised construction teams. He solved problems that most people could not even understand. And then he came to America. Land of opportunity, they said. And for 3 years, he carried plates. Not because he was weak. Not because he gave up. But because the system is hard. The language felt like a wall. And nobody told him he was allowed to speak up. This is his story. And somewhere inside his story, I believe you will find a piece of your own. By the end of this video, you will have new English words. Simple, powerful words that help you stop being invisible. Words that help you walk into a room and take up the space you were always meant to take. Are you ready? But before we step into Marcus's world, I want to give you something first. 4 words. 4 small but powerful words that will unlock everything in this story. Because when you understand these words, not just in English, but in your heart, the story will change you. Let's go. Before we read Marcus's story, I want to give you 4 words, not just English words, not just vocabulary. These are 4 ideas that will sit inside your chest long after this video ends. Ready? The first word is invisible. 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 Say it with me. Invisible. In English, invisible means you cannot be seen. But I want you to think about it differently. Invisible does not mean you do not exist. It means the wrong people are not looking hard enough. A diamond buried in the ground is still a diamond. The ground does not change its value. When Marcus walked into that restaurant in his white uniform every morning, he was not invisible because he was nothing. He was invisible because no one had stopped long enough to look. Remember that. The second word is dignity. Dignity. Dignity means the feeling that you are valuable, that you matter, that you deserve respect. Here is the truth about dignity. Nobody can take it from you. Not a rude customer, not a manager who forgets your name, not a system that does not recognize your degree. They can ignore your dignity. They can try to make you forget it. But they cannot remove it. Dignity lives inside you. It was there before you came to America. It is still there right now. Marcus had to learn this the hard way. And so do many of us. The third word is speak up. Speak up. This is a phrasal verb. 2 small words with a very big meaning. To speak up means to use your voice, to say what you think, to stop being silent when silence is hurting you. Many immigrants stay quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they are afraid. Afraid of their accent, afraid of the wrong word, afraid that people will look at them and think he does not belong here. But here is what I need you to hear. An imperfect sentence spoken out loud is always more powerful than a perfect sentence never said. Always. Speaking up is not rude. Speaking up is not aggressive. Speaking up is how you remind the world, I am here. I have a voice, and I deserve to be heard. The fourth word is deserve. Deserve. To deserve something means you have earned it. You are worthy of it. It belongs to you. This word is important because many immigrants spend years waiting for someone to give them permission. Permission to apply for a better job. Permission to introduce themselves as more than their current title. Permission to believe they are still the person they were back home. You do not need permission. You deserve better. Not because someone gave it to you, but because you survived. You packed a bag. You left everything familiar. You started over in a language that was not your first. That alone, that single act of courage, means you deserve every good thing that is coming your way. So now we have our 4 words. Invisible, dignity, speak up, deserve. Hold on to them. Because Marcus is going to need every single one of them. Let's step into his world. Marcus remembers the exact moment he decided to become an engineer. He was 9 years old. It was a Tuesday morning in Lagos, and the bridge near his school had collapsed overnight. Not a big bridge, just a small concrete bridge over a dirty river. But 43 children could not get to school that day. Marcus stood at the edge of the broken road and looked at the cracked concrete, the twisted metal, the muddy water below. And instead of feeling afraid, he felt something strange. He felt curious. He looked at the broken pieces and thought, I want to know how to fix this. I want to know how to build something that does not fall. That night he told his mother. She was washing dishes at the kitchen sink. She did not stop washing. She just smiled a tired smile, a proud smile, and said 4 words. Then learn how, Marcus. So he did. He studied hard, harder than anyone in his class. He stayed late at the library, when other boys were playing football outside. He read books about concrete, about soil and water, about how the ground holds the weight of everything we build on top of it. At 22, he graduated from the University of Lagos with a degree in civil engineering. His mother came to the ceremony in her best dress, yellow with white flowers, and she cried the entire time. Not sad tears, the other kind. For 11 years, Marcus worked on roads and bridges across Nigeria. He supervised teams of 20-30 workers. He solved problems on construction sites that the textbooks never mentioned. He was good at his job. Not just good. He was the person other engineers called when something went wrong. He had a name in that world. People knew Marcus. People trusted Marcus. When he walked onto a construction site, workers straightened up, not because they were afraid of him, but because they knew when Marcus is here, things get done right. He had a small apartment in Lagos, a motorcycle he loved, and a photograph on his desk. His mother still in that yellow dress, still crying those happy tears. That was his life. And it was a good life. But Marcus had one more dream. A bigger one. He wanted to work in America. Not because Nigeria was not enough. Not because he was running away from something. But because he wanted to build bigger things. Longer bridges. Stronger roads. Projects that would last 100 years. He wanted to sit in a glass office building in Houston or Chicago or New York and look at blueprints spread across a wide table and say, I designed this. That was Marcus's dream. Simple, clear, earned. He applied for his visa 3 times. The first 2 times, rejected. The third time, a yes. He packed 2 bags. He sold his motorcycle. He hugged his mother for a very long time at the airport in Lagos. She did not cry this time. She held his face in both hands and said, You already know how to build things, Marcus. Now go build your life. He landed in Houston, Texas on a Thursday afternoon in October. The sky was wide and blue and the air smelled like something new. Marcus stood outside the airport with 2 bags and 1 dream, and he believed with everything he had that America was ready for him. He did not know yet that the hardest construction project of his life was not a bridge. It was himself. The first week in Houston was beautiful. Everything was big. The roads were wide. The supermarkets were enormous. The buildings touched the clouds. Marcus walked everywhere. He took photographs on his phone. He sent them to his mother in Lagos with one message, It is even bigger than I imagined. But the second week, things got quiet. And quiet for an immigrant alone in a new city is a dangerous thing. Marcus opened his laptop and started applying for engineering jobs. He was not afraid. He had 11 years of experience. He had a degree. He had a portfolio of real projects. Roads, bridges, drainage systems, things he had built with his own hands and his own mind. He sent his resume to 14 companies in the first week. He waited. One response came back, a short email. Very polite, very cold. Thank you for your application. We are looking for candidates with US-based experience. US-based experience. Marcus read that line 3 times. He had built bridges in Nigeria that carried thousands of cars every single day. But because those bridges were not in America, they did not count. He applied to 12 more companies. Same answer. Different words. Same wall. Then came the bigger problem. Marcus went to a licensing office to have his Nigerian engineering degree evaluated. The woman behind the desk looked at his documents for a long time. Then she looked up at him over her glasses and said, These credentials are not recognized here. You will need to pass the US licensing examination first. That process takes between 1 and 3 years. 1 and 3 years. Marcus sat in his car in the parking lot for 40 minutes. He did not cry. He just sat very still and looked at the steering wheel. He had $2,000 left. Rent was due in 3 weeks. And the career he had spent his entire adult life building was not valid here. Not yet. A cousin who lived in Houston found him a job. It was at a restaurant called the Southern Table, a busy American restaurant near downtown Houston. The job was simple. Carry plates, clean tables, refill water glasses, smile. Marcus took the job because rent was due, because $2,000 disappears fast, because sometimes survival looks nothing like your dream and you do it anyway. His first day. The manager, a young man named Derek, maybe 28 years old, looked at Marcus's application and said, without looking up, "You've done this before, right? Table service?" Marcus said, "No, but I learn fast." Derek looked up then, just for a second, then back down at the paper. "Okay, Shadow Tony tonight. Don't talk too much, just watch." That was his welcome to America. Don't talk too much, just watch. And so Marcus watched. He watched how Tony carried 4 plates at once. He watched how the other servers laughed easily with the customers. He watched how they said, "Hi, my name is Jake. I'll be your server tonight," with a big smile and a confidence that seemed to come from nowhere. Marcus practiced that sentence in the bathroom mirror before his second shift. "Hi, my name is Marcus. I'll be your server tonight." His accent was strong. His smile was real. But something in his chest felt very heavy every time he said it. Because his name was Marcus. But his story was engineer. And nobody in that restaurant was ever going to ask him about the story. He went home after his first full week and called his mother. She asked, "How is the engineering work?" Marcus looked at his uniform hanging on the back of the chair. White shirt, black pants, small notepad in the pocket. He said, "It is going well, Mama. I am still getting started." He did not lie. He just could not tell her the whole truth yet. Not yet. The restaurant was loud every Friday night. Tables full, kitchens screaming, servers moving fast like they were running a race nobody announced. Marcus learned the rhythm quickly. He was good with his hands. He was precise. He never dropped a plate. He never forgot an order. After 3 weeks, Derek told him, "You're reliable. I'll give you that. Not you're good. Not you're valuable. Just reliable. Like a machine. Like a piece of equipment that shows up and does not break." Marcus said, "Thank you," and went back to table 7. But the hardest part of the job was not the heavy plates. It was not the long hours. It was not even the tired feet at the end of a double shift. The hardest part had a name. His name was Ryan. Ryan was 24 years old. He had worked at the southern table for 2 years. He knew every regular customer. He knew every shortcut in the kitchen. He knew how to make Derek laugh. And from the very first week, Ryan decided he did not like Marcus. Not loudly, not with big angry words. Ryan was smarter than that. He did it quietly. The way some people do when they want to make you feel small, but leave no fingerprints. It started with small things. When Marcus asked a question during the team meeting, Ryan would look at the ceiling. A small look, half a second, but Marcus saw it every time. When Marcus got an order wrong, just once a mistake. Any new server makes, Ryan told 3 other co-workers before the shift was even over. The new guy messed up table 12 again. Derek's gonna lose it. He had not messed up table 12 again. It happened once. But Ryan said again. And the word again is a small word with a very large shadow. Then came the night that Marcus did not forget. A customer at table 4, an older gentleman in a blue jacket, asked Marcus a question about the fish special. Marcus answered carefully. His English was correct. His information was right. But his accent was strong that night. He was tired. The words came out slower than usual. The man nodded politely and said, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" Marcus repeated it, slower, clearer. The man understood and ordered the fish. Normal moment. Happens to every server. But Ryan was standing nearby rolling silverware. And when Marcus walked past him toward the kitchen, Ryan said, just loud enough for 2 other servers to hear, maybe they should put him on dish duty instead. Small laughter. Quick. Then silence. Marcus kept walking. He pushed through the kitchen door. He set the order slip on the counter. He stood at the window that looked out onto the parking lot for exactly 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Then he turned around and went back to work. Because rent was due. Because his mother called every Sunday. Because quitting felt like letting Ryan win. But something changed in Marcus that night. Not loudly, not dramatically, just something tightened. Like a bolt that gets turned one more time past the point of comfort. He started to doubt his English. Not because it was bad, But because Ryan's voice had gotten inside his head and rearranged things, he started to speak less, to ask fewer questions, to take up less space. He started to become exactly what Ryan wanted him to be: invisible. And that is the most dangerous thing a person like Ryan can do. Not break you loudly, but teach you slowly and quietly to break yourself. Marcus did not see it happening. Not yet. But somewhere deep inside, in the same place where a 9-year-old boy once looked at a broken bridge and felt curious instead of afraid, something was still burning. Small, but burning. And fires like that, no matter how small, do not go out, or don't go out easily. She always sat at table 9, every Tuesday evening, 6 o'clock. Always alone. Always with a book. Her name was Carol. Carol was 67 years old. She had silver hair, cut short and clean. She wore reading glasses on a little chain around her neck. She had been a high school English teacher for 38 years in the Houston public school system. Marcus had served her every Tuesday for 6 weeks. She always ordered the same thing: grilled salmon, steamed vegetables, and a glass of sparkling water with lemon on the side. Not lime, lemon. Marcus never forgot. Carol was always polite. She said please. She said thank you. She made eye contact when she spoke, which Marcus had learned not every customer does. But they had never had a real conversation. Just, good evening. The usual. Yes, please. Thank you, Marcus. 6 weeks of Tuesday evenings. Small words. Polite distance. Until one Tuesday in December. The restaurant was quieter than usual. Cold outside. People staying home. Marcus brought Carol her sparkling water lemon on the side, and she looked up from her book and said something different. Not thank you. She said, "You speak very carefully. I noticed that about you." Marcus stopped. He was not sure if that was a compliment or a correction. With his English still uncertain in his chest, he could not always tell the difference. He said, "I am sorry." Carol smiled. Not a polite smile, a real one, the kind that reaches the eyes. She said, "I mean it as a compliment. Most people speak without thinking. You choose your words. That is a skill you know." Marcus did not know what to say, so he said the truest thing he had. "English is not my first language. I try to be careful." Carol nodded slowly. She took off her reading glasses and let them hang on the chain. She looked at him. Really looked. The way very few people had looked at Marcus since he arrived in Houston. And she asked, "What did you do before this?" 4 words. What did you do before this? Marcus felt something move in his chest. Like a door that had been closed for a long time, had just shifted. Not opened, just shifted. He said, "I was a civil engineer in Nigeria for 11 years. Carol did not look surprised. She did not look sorry for him. She did not do what many people do, that quick, uncomfortable smile. "That means I do not know what to say to that." She just nodded, slowly, like she was filing the information somewhere important. Then she said, "Then you are not a server, Marcus. You are an engineer who is serving tables right now. Those are 2 very different things. Don't let anyone, including yourself, confuse them." Marcus stood at table 9 for 3 full seconds without moving. 3 seconds is a long time when something is rearranging itself inside your chest. Then Carol picked up her book again and said, "The salmon smells wonderful tonight." And just like that, the conversation was over. But something had been left behind. Not a strategy, not a plan, not even advice exactly, just a mirror. Carol had held up a mirror and shown Marcus something he had slowly stopped seeing in himself. He was not a servant. He was a professional in a temporary situation. He was not invisible. He had just been standing in a room full of people, who were not looking hard enough. That night, after his shift, Marcus sat in his car in the parking lot for a long time. He did not look at the steering wheel this time. He looked at his hands, the same hands that had carried plates for months, the same hands that had once held blueprints spread across a wide construction table in Lagos. And for the first time in a very long time, he saw both things at once, the server and the engineer, not one or the other, both. And he thought, maybe Carol is right. Maybe I have been confusing the situation with the identity. Maybe it is time to stop being invisible on purpose. He started the car. He had work to do. Marcus bought a notebook the next morning. A simple one, blue cover, 40 pages. He wrote 3 words on the first page. Engineer, still here. That was all. No long plan, no big promise to himself. Just a reminder, 3 words to look at every morning before the white shirt and the black pants, and the small notepad in his pocket. Then he made a decision. He would study again. Not because the licensing exam was easy, not because he had extra time. He was working double shifts 4 days a week. But because Carol's words had woken something up that Ryan's voice had almost put to sleep. He found a study group online. Engineers preparing for the US licensing exam. They met on Zoom every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Marcus joined the first meeting with his old engineering textbooks stacked on the table beside him. Some of the books had his notes in the margins written in Lagos years ago, in his younger handwriting. Seeing those notes felt like meeting an old friend he had almost forgotten. The study group had 7 people. Different countries, different accents. All of them somewhere between who they used to be and who they were trying to become. Marcus felt for the first time since Houston that he was in the right room. But the road was not straight. 3 weeks into studying, Derek called Marcus into the office. He said, "I need to talk to you about your hours. We're cutting back on staff. I have to reduce your shifts from 4 to 2 per week." 2 shifts? Half the money. Marcus sat very still. He said, "Is this permanent?" Derek said, "I don't know yet. Business is slow right now." Marcus nodded. He said, "Okay, thank you for telling me." He walked out of the office past Ryan, who was leaning against the wall scrolling his phone. Ryan looked up, saw Marcus's face, and smiled, just slightly. The way people smile when they think someone else's bad news is somehow good news for them. Marcus saw the smile. He did not stop walking. That night, he did the math on a piece of paper. Rent, food, phone, study materials. 2 shifts was not enough. He needed a second job. He found one 3 days later, stocking shelves at a grocery store from 5 in the morning until 10. Then home, then study, then the restaurant in the evening. 7 days a week for 6 weeks straight. His body was tired in a way he had never felt before, not even on the hardest construction sites in Lagos. Because physical tiredness heals overnight. But the tiredness of rebuilding your identity, of carrying who you used to be while doing what you have to do right now, that is a different kind of weight. Some nights, he opened the blue notebook and stared at the 3 words, "Engineer, still here," and added a question mark in his mind. Engineer, still here. On one of those nights, he almost closed the textbook and did not open it again. He was sitting at his kitchen table at 11:30 at night. His feet hurt. His eyes hurt. His Saturday Zoom session was in 8.5 hours. He picked up his phone and called his mother in Lagos. It was 6:30 in the morning there. She answered on the second ring because mothers always answer on the second ring. He did not say much. He just said, "Mama, it is hard." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Marcus, do you remember the bridge, the one near your school that fell down?" He said, "Yes." She said, Did they leave it broken? He said no, they rebuilt it. She said, then you already know what to do with broken things. Marcus sat with that for a long time after the call ended. Then he opened the textbook. 2 months later, something shifted. The material started to feel familiar again. Not easy, but familiar, like a language he had once spoken fluently and was slowly remembering word by word. In the study group, he started answering questions instead of just listening. One Saturday morning, a young woman named Priya, originally from Chennai, India, now living in Dallas, was stuck on a structural load problem. Marcus looked at it and explained the solution in 3 sentences. Clear, simple, correct. Priya said, "Oh, that makes so much sense. How did you see that so fast?" Marcus looked at the problem again. He said, "I have built something like this before. In real life, not just in a textbook." There was a small silence on the Zoom call. And then someone said, "That is actually really impressive, Marcus." He did not say anything back, but he closed the blue notebook and looked at the 3 words on the cover, engineer. Still here, no question mark this time. The exam date was a Thursday in March. Marcus woke up at 4:30 in the morning, not because of an alarm, just awake. The way you are awake before something important. He made coffee. He sat at the kitchen table. He did not open a textbook. He did not review his notes. He just sat with the blue notebook in front of him and read the 3 words one more time. Engineer, still here. Then he put on his clothes and drove to the testing center in the grey morning lights. The exam was long, 8 hours, 2 sections, hundreds of questions. Some questions were easy. Marcus moved through them like walking on familiar ground. Some questions were hard. He slowed down. He breathed. He thought about real bridges, real roads, real construction sites in Lagos, where the answer was not in a textbook. It was in the ground beneath his feet. He finished with 11 minutes to spare. He sat in his car afterward and felt nothing. Not happy, not sad, not confident, not afraid, just empty. The good kind of empty. The kind that comes after you have given absolutely everything you have to one single moment. He drove home. He ate rice and chicken he had cooked 2 days before. He slept for 10 hours straight. The results came 6 weeks later. A Thursday again. Early morning. An email. Marcus was at the grocery store when his phone vibrated in his pocket. He was holding a box of cereal in aisle 7. He looked at the subject line, FE exam results, fundamentals of engineering. He put the cereal down. He opened the email. He read the first line. Then he read it again. Then he stood in aisle 7 of a Houston grocery store at 6:45 in the morning and pressed his hand flat against his chest just to feel his own heartbeat, because the word on the screen was pass. He called his mother first. She screamed so loud that the man stocking shelves in the next aisle looked over to check if someone was hurt. Marcus laughed, a real laugh, deep and full. The kind he had not heard from himself in a very long time. His mother was crying. Happy tears again. The same tears from the graduation ceremony in Lagos. She said, "I knew it! I always knew it! You are still you, Marcus. You were always still you." That evening, his last Tuesday shift at the southern table, Carol came in at 6 o'clock. Table 9. Her book. Her sparkling water. Lemon on the side. Marcus brought her water and stood for a moment. He said, "I have something to tell you." Carol looked up. He said, "I passed my engineering exam. I am applying for full certification now. I already have 2 interviews next week." Carol was quiet for a moment. She looked at him the same way she had that night in December. Really looked. And then she said very simply, "Of course you did. Not, I am so proud of you. Not, that is amazing. Just, of course you did. Like it was never a question. Like she had always known this was the only possible ending for a man like Marcus. Marcus nodded. He smiled. He said, "Thank you for asking me what I did before this." Carol picked up her book. She said, "I just asked a question. You did everything else." 2 weeks later, Marcus walked into an engineering firm on the 14th floor of a glass office building in downtown Houston. He wore a dark blue jacket, no white shirt, no black pants, no small notepad in his pocket. He sat across from a hiring manager named David, a tall man with kind eyes and a firm handshake. David looked at Marcus's resume and said, 11 years in Nigeria, roads and bridges. That is serious field experience. Marcus said, "Yes, it is." Not, "I know it is not American experience." Not, "I understand if that is a problem." Just, "Yes, it is." David nodded. He said, "Tell me about the most difficult project you ever worked on." And Marcus leaned forward in his chair and talked. For 23 minutes he talked about bridges and roads and construction sites in Lagos and problems he had solved that most people in that office had only read about in textbooks. David listened to every word. At the end, he said, "We will be in touch by the end of the week." They called the next morning. Marcus accepted the offer on a Thursday because Thursdays he had decided were his days. That night, he opened the blue notebook one last time. He turned to the first page. He looked at the 3 words he had written on a cold morning in December when everything felt impossible. Engineer, still here. He did not change the words. He did not need to. They were already true. They had always been true. He just needed time to remember them. Marcus's story does not end in that glass office building in downtown Houston. It begins there. Because that is the thing about survivors. They do not finish. They just move to the next level of the same fight. A bigger room, a wider table, a harder problem. And they are not afraid of it. Because they have already proven the most important thing that they can carry the weight and keep walking. So what did Marcus teach us today? Not a trick, not a shortcut. Not a life hack you can write on a sticky note, something deeper. Something you will still remember 10 years from now. The first thing Marcus taught us. Your situation is not your identity. Marcus carried plates. But he was never a servant. He was an engineer in a temporary situation. Those are 2 completely different things. And the moment you confuse them, the moment you let your job title become your whole story, that is the moment you start to disappear. You are not your current job. You are not your accent. You are not the gap in your resume or the degree that does not transfer or the interview you did not get. You are the sum of everything you have survived, everything you have built, and everything you still carry inside you, waiting for the right room to finally let it out. The second thing Marcus taught us, one question can change everything. Carol did not give Marcus money. She did not write him a recommendation letter. She did not fix his visa or pass his exam for him. She asked 4 words. "What did you do before this?" 4 words. And those 4 words gave Marcus back something he had slowly been losing, his own reflection. Never underestimate the power of being seen, and never underestimate your own power to see others. Because somewhere near you, at work, in your building, in your English class, there is a Marcus, someone carrying more than what shows. Someone waiting for one person to stop and ask, "What is your real story?" The third thing Marcus taught us. Speak up before you are ready. Marcus's English was not perfect when he joined the study group. His accent was still strong when he explained the solution to Priya. His hands were shaking slightly when he sat across from David in that glass office building. He was not ready. He spoke up anyway. And that single act of using your imperfect voice in an imperfect moment is always, always, always more powerful than waiting in silence for perfection to arrive. Perfection does not arrive. Courage does, but only when you call it. Now I want to speak directly to you, not to Marcus, not to a character in a story, to you, the person watching this right now. Maybe you are on a break between 2 shifts. Maybe you are sitting in a parked car outside a job that does not know your name yet. Maybe you're tired in that deep, quiet way that sleep does not fix. I see you, and I want you to know your story is not over. It is not even close to over. You left everything familiar. You crossed a border, or an ocean, or both. You started again in a language that was not your first. That is not weakness. That is the hardest kind of courage most people will never understand. Marcus did it. And Marcus is not special. Marcus is simply someone who refused to let a temporary situation become a permanent identity. You can do the same thing, not tomorrow. Not when your English is perfect. Not when the system gets easier. Now, with the words you already have, with the voice you already own, with the story that is already yours. The bridge near Marcus's school in Lagos, the one that fell down when he was 9 years old, was rebuilt 6 months later. Stronger than before. Because that is what engineers know that the rest of us sometimes forget. You do not throw away a broken thing. You study it, you understand why it broke, and then you build it back better than it was. You are not broken. You are mid-construction. And the best part of the bridge, the strongest part, is still being built. Let's step out of Marcus's world for a moment. Let's come back here, to this room, to you and me. Because Marcus's story is beautiful, but it is not just a story. It is a mirror. And I want you to look into it with me right now. Lesson 1. The system is hard, but the story you tell yourself is harder. Think about this carefully. Marcus faced real obstacles. His degree was not recognized. His experience did not count on paper. The doors were genuinely closed. Those were real walls. I am not going to pretend they were not. But the wall that almost stopped him, the wall that nearly won, was not the licensing system. It was not Ryan's voice. It was not the 14 rejection emails. It was the moment Marcus started to believe that those things were the truth about him. That is the dangerous wall. The one inside. The one you build yourself brick by brick every time you say, maybe they are right. Maybe I do not belong here. Maybe I am asking for too much. Here is what I need you to hear. The outside walls are real, but they are also temporary. Systems change. Doors open eventually. The inside wall. The story you tell yourself, that one only comes down when you decide to stop building it. What story are you telling yourself right now? Not out loud. The quiet one. The one at 2 in. Is it true? Or is it just a wall you have been building for so long that it started to feel like the truth? Lesson 2. You do not need a perfect voice. You need a present voice. I want you to think about every time you stayed silent, when you had something to say, in a meeting, at a counter, with a doctor, with a teacher, with someone who was wrong about something important, and you said nothing, not because you had nothing to say, but because your accent felt too heavy. Your grammar felt too uncertain. Your English felt like a door that was only half open. And so you waited. I understand that feeling. I understand it completely. But here is the truth. every single time you stay silent to protect yourself from judgment, you also stay silent against the version of yourself that deserves to be heard. Marcus's English was imperfect in that glass office building. David heard him anyway. For 23 minutes, David heard every word. Not because Marcus's English was perfect, but because Marcus showed up and used what he had. Your voice accented, imperfect, uncertain is still a voice. And a present imperfect voice will always be heard louder than a perfect silent one. Lesson 3. Find your carol and be someone's carol. This one is simple, but it might be the most important. Carol did not save Marcus. She did not even try to. She just stopped. She looked. She asked. And sometimes that is everything. When you are deep inside the survival mode of immigration, working 2 jobs, studying at midnight, sending money home, trying to hold your identity together with tired hands, it is easy to forget that the person next to you might be doing the exact same thing. Look around you. Who in your life needs someone to solve it? Stop. And Todd asks, what did you do before this? Who are you really? What are you carrying that nobody here can see? Be that person for someone. Because here is the quiet truth about kindness in hard places. When you see someone else clearly, you remember how to see yourself. So let me ask you directly. Which one of these 3 lessons hit you hardest today? Was it the story you tell yourself? Was it the voice you have been keeping silent? Was it the person you have forgotten to see? You do not have to answer out loud, but I want you to sit with it. For 10 minutes after this video ends, just sit with it. Because the answers that come in the quiet, those are always the most honest ones. And honest answers are where real change begins. Not next month, not when things get easier. Right now, in this moment, with everything you already have. Before this video ends, I have one small challenge for you. Not a big assignment, not a difficult exercise. Just one thing, one honest thing. Take out your phone right now. Open your notes app. Or find a piece of paper, a napkin, anything, and write one sentence in English. Not your job title, not your current situation. Not what you do every day to pay the rent. Write who you really are. Use this structure. I am not just a blank. I am a blank who is building something bigger than this moment. For example, I am not just a cleaner. I am a nurse who is building her American license. I am not just a delivery driver. I am a software engineer who is building his future one shift at a time. I am not just a cashier. I am a teacher who is building a new classroom in a new country. Your turn. Write it. Say it out loud once, even if your voice shakes, even if no one is listening. Say it anyway. Because the first person who needs to hear that sentence is you. Now, I have a small English challenge for this community. Fill in the blank. Leave your answer in the comments below. Here is the sentence. It was hard, but I refused to blank. Maybe you write, give up, stay silent, disappear, forget who I am. Any answer is the right answer if it is your honest answer. I will read every single comment, every one, because your words matter here. This is your space. And if this story, Marcus's story, felt like a piece of your own today, if something in this video made you sit up straighter, breathe a little deeper, or remember something about yourself you had almost forgotten, then please subscribe to this channel, not for me, for the next version of yourself that needs to hear the next story. Because we are just getting started. Every week, a new story. A new voice, a new set of words to help you take up the space you were always meant to take. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell. and I will see you in the next one. You are not invisible. You never were. Before you go, I want you to remember one thing. Just one. Not a vocabulary word. Not a grammar rule. Not a strategy or a system. Just this. Every single morning that you wake up in this country and choose to keep going, that is not a small thing. That is everything. The people who have never left home will never fully understand what it costs to start over in a new language, in a new city, in a new version of yourself you are still learning how to wear. But I understand, and the thousands of people watching this with you right now, they understand too. You are not alone in this. You were never alone in this. Marcus still has his blue notebook. He keeps it in the top drawer of his desk, his engineer's desk on the 14th floor in the glass building in downtown Houston. He does not open it very often. But sometimes on a hard day, when the new walls appear and the old doubts come back dressed in new clothes, he opens the drawer. He looks at the cover. He reads the 3 words, "Engineer still here," and then he closes it and goes back to work. You have a notebook too. Maybe it is not blue. Maybe it is not written down yet. But the words are already inside you. You just need to remember them. So tonight before you sleep, write your 3 words. The 3 words that remind you who you really are beneath the uniform, beneath the accent, beneath the exhaustion of building a life from the ground up. Write them. Keep them close. Read them on the hard days, because you are still here. And still here is the most powerful place to begin. Take care of yourself. Rest well tonight. And I will see you in the next story. If James's journey felt like your journey, if something in this video